My beloved child. Before your finger moves away from this moment, listen with an open heart. There are seasons in life when answers remain hidden, not because heaven has forgotten you, but because the beauty of the answer depends on the perfect timing of its arrival. If these words have reached you today, imagine them as part of a fictional, inspirational story meant to encourage hope. Yet perhaps, somewhere within that story, your own heart will recognize something it has quietly been longing to hear. You have asked in silence more times than anyone knows. Not always with spoken words, but with tired eyes that searched the future, with prayers whispered into the darkness after everyone else had fallen asleep, with quiet moments when you wondered whether the person destined to walk beside you was already somewhere beneath the same sky. There were evenings when laughter surrounded everyone else, yet your own heart carried an invisible question that never seemed to disappear. When? That single word has echoed through your soul more often than you realize. The remarkable thing is that waiting has never been empty. While it felt like stillness, unseen chapters were being written. Imagine a master artist standing before a blank canvas. To someone watching from the doorway, nothing appears complete. Yet every hidden brushstroke matters before the masterpiece can be revealed. Your story has been unfolding in much the same way. Think of a river flowing through mountains. It never argues with the rocks that seem to delay its journey. It simply continues, carving beauty where resistance once stood. Your own path has carried unexpected turns, unanswered prayers, and moments that looked like delays. But what if those detours were quietly protecting a future that would have arrived too early had every door opened exactly when you wanted? There is a reason your heart still believes love is possible, even after disappointment tried to convince you otherwise. That hope did not survive by accident. It remained because something inside you refused to surrender the dream completely. Perhaps you buried it beneath responsibilities. Perhaps you stopped speaking about it. Yet deep within, a small light continued to burn. Picture the first rays of dawn touching a quiet valley after a long night. Darkness never announces its ending. It simply begins to lose its power one gentle beam at a time. Many people mistake that early light for nothing significant. They think the night remains unchanged. But those who understand the rhythm of creation know sunrise has already begun before the sun fully appears. Your future may feel exactly like that. There are moments when you compare your journey with others. Weddings appear in photographs. Families celebrate milestones. Friends speak about anniversaries and shared dreams. You smile for them, but afterward you wonder why your own chapter still feels unfinished. That question has visited countless hearts throughout history. Even those remembered for extraordinary faith experienced seasons when promises seemed distant. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah. The promise they carried did not arrive according to human expectation. Years passed. Circumstances seemed impossible. Yet the timing of fulfillment became part of the miracle itself. The delay was not evidence of abandonment, it became evidence that hope could survive longer than fear. Perhaps your own story carries a similar mystery. But there is something few people ever notice. Before two lives can truly become one, both journeys often travel through places that neither person would have chosen. One learns compassion through heartbreak. The other discovers courage through loneliness. One grows stronger because of disappointment. The other becomes gentler after failure. They believe they are walking separate roads, never realizing those roads are quietly bending toward the same horizon. Could it be that someone you have never met is learning lessons today that will someday become the reason your future relationship remains unshaken? Do not answer too quickly. Because the timing is connected to more than calendars. It is connected to character, to healing, to wisdom, to purpose. There are invisible pieces that must fit together before the visible picture makes sense. Imagine standing before an ancient door carved from cedar wood. Every instinct tells you to push it open immediately. Yet the key has not arrived. Frustration whispers that the delay is unnecessary. Then, months later, you discover that beyond the door lay a path that would have been impossible to walk safely before that exact season. Suddenly the waiting no longer feels like punishment. It feels like protection. Many people spend years asking when love will arrive without asking who they are becoming while they wait. That question changes everything. Because the future spouse you dream about is not merely someone entering your story. They are someone who will share your victories, witness your hidden tears, encourage your calling, and walk beside you through ordinary mornings and extraordinary miracles alike. Such a relationship requires foundations deeper than excitement alone. Perhaps that foundation has been quietly forming every day you believe nothing was happening. There is another image I want you to hold in your imagination. A gardener plants two trees on opposite sides of a field. During the first year, one appears to grow much faster than the other. Visitors admire the taller tree and overlook the smaller one. What they cannot see is that beneath the surface, the slower tree is spreading deeper roots. Years later, storms arrive. The taller tree falls because its roots never reached deep enough. The overlooked tree remained standing because unseen growth mattered more than visible speed. Your waiting season may feel overlooked. But unseen growth often determines lasting strength. Some evenings you have questioned your own worth simply because love has not yet arrived in the way you expected. Yet your value has never been measured by your relationship status. The stars remain beautiful whether anyone notices them or not. A mountain does not lose its greatness because clouds hide its peak. In the same way, your purpose continues even during seasons that seem quiet. Still, there is something unusual about the timing of this message. Not because it predicts a date. Not because it promises a specific month. But because stories often reach their turning point immediately after the main character believes nothing is changing. Think carefully. How many films begin with celebration? Very few. Most begin with uncertainty. Questions. Waiting. Long roads. Closed doors. Only later does the audience realize those difficult chapters were preparing them for the scene they would never forget. What if your life has quietly entered that very chapter? The answer cannot be forced. It cannot be rushed. Yet every sunrise brings unseen movement. Every prayer shapes something beyond immediate sight. Every act of kindness plants seeds whose harvest you may not recognize until much later. And somewhere, beyond everything you currently understand, another life may be approaching the same intersection where your future stories finally become one. But before that meeting can happen, one final hidden piece must fall perfectly into place. And that unseen moment is far closer than you think. End of part 1. A quiet truth is beginning to unfold, and it may surprise you more than the question that has lived in your heart for so long. The moment your future spouse enters your life will not arrive because the calendar finally reaches the right day. It will arrive because two separate journeys will have quietly completed the lessons they were always meant to learn. Imagine two rivers flowing from distant mountains. Neither knows the exact point where they will meet, yet every curve, every valley, and every obstacle gently guides them toward the same destination. In this fictional inspirational story, your path is following that same beautiful rhythm. There will come a morning that seems completely ordinary. The sunlight will spill across familiar streets, birds will sing as they always have, and nothing around you will appear extraordinary. Yet unseen doors will already be opening. Conversations you never expected will begin. Circumstances that once seemed impossible will quietly rearrange themselves. What looked like coincidence will slowly reveal itself as preparation. Looking back, you will realize that the greatest chapter of your love story did not begin with fireworks. It began with a single ordinary day that heaven had been preparing long before you recognized it. Many people imagine that the perfect relationship begins when two people finally meet. But what if it actually begins long before that? What if your future spouse has already been growing through challenges that mirror your own? Perhaps they have experienced loneliness that taught compassion. Perhaps they have faced disappointment that strengthened their faith. While you were wondering whether anyone truly understood your heart, they were asking the very same question beneath another sky. Neither of you could hear the other's prayers, yet both journeys were quietly moving toward the same answer. Before we continue, if this fictional message is bringing hope to your heart, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your presence here may encourage someone else who is walking through their own season of waiting, reminding them that hope is never wasted. There is another mystery hidden within your waiting. Sometimes what feels like silence is actually protection. Imagine walking through a dense forest before sunrise. The path ahead is invisible, and every step feels uncertain. You may wish for daylight to appear immediately, but if the light arrived too soon, you might never appreciate the beauty waiting beyond the trees. The dawn comes gradually, revealing exactly what you need to see at precisely the right moment. In the same way, your future is not being hidden to frustrate you. It is being revealed one faithful step at a time. The scriptures often remind us that there is a time for every purpose under heaven. Those ancient words continue to echo through every generation because they speak to the deepest human struggle, the desire to know when. Yet timing is one of life's greatest mysteries. Seeds planted in winter do not bloom because we demand they do. They bloom because the season changes at exactly the right moment. Love follows a similar pattern. It cannot be rushed without risking what it was always meant to become. Perhaps you have wondered whether you missed your opportunity. Maybe someone walked away, and you feared that was your only chance. Maybe circumstances changed so suddenly that your confidence began to fade. Yet not every closed door represents a lost blessing. Some doors close because another path, still unseen, carries a future greater than the one you were prepared to settle for. Looking back, many people discover that their greatest disappointments quietly redirected them toward their greatest joy. Picture a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves. Ships cannot always see the shore, especially during storms. But the light continues shining whether anyone notices it or not. Your hope has been like that lighthouse. Even when doubt surrounded you, a quiet light continued to guide your heart forward. That light has never been meaningless. It has been pointing toward a destination you have not yet fully discovered. And now another question begins to rise. What if your future spouse is much closer to your story than you imagine? Not necessarily physically close, but closer in purpose. Perhaps your lives have already crossed in ways neither of you recognized. A brief conversation. A forgotten meeting. A shared place at different times. Or perhaps your paths have not crossed at all because one final chapter must still unfold before the meeting becomes unforgettable. Whatever the answer may be within this story, one thing remains certain: the next chapter is not about waiting endlessly. It is about recognizing the quiet signs that preparation is giving way to arrival. Because something has already begun to change. And in the next part, the hidden sign that reveals your season is about to shift will finally be uncovered. Not every sign arrives with thunder. Sometimes it arrives as an unexpected peace that settles over your heart without explanation. Sometimes it comes through a door that opens after years of silence. Sometimes it begins with a conversation you almost decided not to have. In this fictional inspirational story, the season before your future spouse enters your life is marked not by noise, but by quiet transformation. The greatest changes often begin where no one is looking. You may have noticed that certain dreams no longer satisfy you the way they once did. The things that once seemed urgent have slowly lost their grip on your attention. Instead, a deeper longing has begun to grow, a desire not simply to be loved, but to build something lasting with someone whose heart is moving in the same direction as yours. That change is not weakness. It is maturity quietly shaping your future. Imagine standing beside a calm lake just before sunrise. The surface appears completely still, yet beneath the water countless movements are taking place. Fish are swimming. Currents are shifting. Life is preparing for a new day. From the shore, nothing seems to be happening, but the unseen activity is greater than the visible silence. Your own life may feel exactly like that. What appears motionless is actually full of preparation. There is another mystery few people understand. The person who will one day become your spouse is not only being guided toward you, they are also being prepared to recognize your value. Timing is not simply about bringing two people together. It is about ensuring that when they meet, both hearts are finally able to see what they would have overlooked in an earlier season. Think about Joseph's journey in Scripture. Before the palace came the prison. Before honor came years of uncertainty. Every difficult chapter seemed unrelated to the promise he carried. Yet later it became clear that each delay was quietly placing him exactly where he needed to be. Your own waiting may feel disconnected from your future, but one day the pieces will fit together with surprising clarity. There may even be moments ahead that seem confusing. Plans may change unexpectedly. An opportunity you expected to succeed may quietly disappear. A familiar routine may suddenly shift. Do not assume every interruption is a setback. Sometimes the road changes because the destination is drawing nearer than you realize. A single unexpected turn can lead to the encounter that changes an entire lifetime. The most beautiful love stories rarely begin with perfect circumstances. They begin with two people who have been shaped by hope, refined through challenges, and softened by compassion. They recognize something in each other that the world cannot easily explain. It is not perfection they notice. It is peace. It is trust. It is the feeling that two separate stories have finally found the page where they belong together. Perhaps you have been asking, will I know when the right person arrives? In this story, the answer is gentle. You will not need to force certainty. Fear will gradually lose its voice. The connection will invite peace rather than confusion. Even if questions remain, your heart will not feel as restless as it once did. Like travelers who finally recognize the lights of home after a long journey, something within you will quietly whisper, "This feels different." Yet there is one final preparation that cannot be ignored. It has nothing to do with appearance. Nothing to do with status. Nothing to do with wealth. It has everything to do with forgiveness. Old disappointments, broken expectations, and hidden wounds cannot be allowed to write the next chapter of your story. Healing does not erase the past, but it prevents the past from controlling the future. As light slowly enters a room that has been dark for years, the shadows naturally retreat. In the same way, hope begins to replace fear when your heart chooses to believe that a new beginning is still possible. The remarkable truth is that your future spouse may be praying for qualities that have quietly been growing inside you during this very season. They may not know your name yet, but the answer to one of their deepest prayers could already be taking shape through your unseen growth. At the same time, qualities they are developing today may become the very reason your future relationship remains strong when challenges inevitably come. Nothing about this preparation is accidental. Every lesson, every tear, every unexpected blessing, every closed door, every small victory, each one is becoming part of a larger story whose meaning is still unfolding. But the greatest revelation has not been shared yet. Because there is one specific moment, a turning point hidden within an ordinary day, that will quietly announce the end of waiting and the beginning of everything you have hoped for. And that moment is closer than anyone in this story expects. The turning point rarely announces itself with dramatic music or flashing signs. Instead, it slips quietly into an ordinary moment that almost seems too simple to matter. In this fictional inspirational story, the day your future begins to unfold will not feel like the ending of a long wait at first, it will feel like the beginning of a quiet conversation that changes everything. Imagine walking beneath a sky painted with the colors of early evening. The wind carries the scent of rain, and people pass by without knowing that one life is about to be forever different. You will not recognize the importance of every detail in that instant. Only later will you remember the smile, the unexpected words, or the feeling that settled over your heart like a gentle promise. Sometimes people expect destiny to arrive with certainty so overwhelming that every doubt disappears immediately. But lasting love often begins with something softer. It begins with respect before romance grows deeper. It begins with peace before excitement becomes overwhelming. It begins with two hearts discovering that they can be completely honest without pretending to be someone they are not. There is a beautiful lesson hidden in the story of Ruth. She did not know that an ordinary day of faithful work would lead her toward a future she could never have imagined. She simply kept walking with humility, courage, and hope. Later, what appeared to be an ordinary meeting became the doorway to an extraordinary chapter. Your own journey may unfold in a similar way. Not through dramatic striving, but through faithful steps taken one day at a time. If this fictional story has encouraged your heart, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments one word that describes the hope you're holding on to today. Your story may become the encouragement someone else needs while they are still waiting for their own new beginning. Now listen closely, because another mystery begins to reveal itself. Your future spouse may not first recognize you because of appearance or achievements. What draws them toward you will be something much deeper. It will be the calm strength you carry after surviving difficult seasons. It will be the kindness that remained even when life tested your patience. It will be the quiet faith that refused to disappear despite unanswered questions. Those unseen qualities are often the very treasures that time has been protecting. Picture a vineyard stretching across rolling hills. During one season the vines appear almost lifeless. Anyone unfamiliar with vineyards might assume nothing valuable remains. Yet beneath the surface, life is quietly preparing for fruit that will appear at exactly the right time. Your heart has been living through a similar season. What looked empty has actually been growing stronger beneath the surface. Then something unexpected happens. You stop chasing the future with fear. You begin living each day with quiet confidence. You laugh more freely. You notice beauty in simple moments. You become less anxious about when, because your heart begins trusting that the right chapter cannot miss you. That change is not the end of the story. It is often the beginning. Because peace has a remarkable way of making room for blessings that fear struggles to receive. There may even be a final test before everything changes. Not a punishment, but an opportunity to choose hope over doubt one last time. Life has a way of asking whether you still believe after the waiting has grown long. In that quiet decision, your heart becomes ready for what is ahead. And then, without warning, the ordinary becomes unforgettable. A conversation begins. A door opens. A familiar place suddenly feels different. A name you have never expected becomes impossible to forget. At first it will seem like another ordinary encounter. But the days that follow will reveal that this meeting was quietly connected to every chapter that came before. The tears. The patience. The unanswered prayers. The hidden preparation. None of it was wasted. Yet there is one final revelation still waiting beyond this moment. The greatest surprise is not simply when your future spouse enters your life. It is why that exact moment had to be chosen above every other possibility. And when that final truth is revealed, the entire journey will make sense in a way you never imagined. There is one final truth that changes how this entire story is understood. It was never only about finding the right person. It was also about becoming the right companion for the journey that awaited both of you. In this fictional inspirational story, every season of waiting has carried a purpose far greater than it first appeared. The nights when you questioned your future, the mornings when hope felt fragile, and the moments when you almost convinced yourself to stop believing were never empty pages. They became the chapters that shaped a heart capable of recognizing genuine love when it finally arrived. Imagine a magnificent cathedral being built. Passers-by only see scaffolding, dust, and unfinished walls. Some assume the project has been abandoned because they cannot yet see its beauty. But the master builder never judges the work by its unfinished appearance. Every stone is placed with the completed masterpiece already in mind. Your life has often felt like that unfinished cathedral. You looked at delays. Heaven looked at foundations. You counted lost opportunities. The story counted hidden preparation. You saw unanswered questions. The larger picture was quietly moving toward an answer that could only be understood in time. One day, perhaps sooner than you expect within this story, You will look back and realize that the relationship you once begged to happen years earlier would not have survived who you both were then. The timing was not withholding joy from you. It was protecting the joy that was still growing. Think about the changing seasons. Winter never apologizes for taking longer than expected. Spring never rushes because someone grows impatient. The blossoms appear exactly when the roots beneath the earth are strong enough to support new life. Love often follows that same rhythm. There is something deeply comforting about that thought. It means your story has never been racing against anyone else's. Someone else's wedding was not proof that your blessing had been forgotten. Someone else's happiness did not reduce the beauty waiting in your own future. Every story carries its own rhythm. Every heart follows its own path. Every promise unfolds in its own season. As Scripture reminds us, those who wait with hope renew their strength. Waiting does not simply fill time, it quietly transforms the one who waits with faith and perseverance. Now picture one final scene. The sun is setting beyond distant hills. The sky glows with shades of gold and crimson. The wind is gentle. The long road behind you stretches farther than you imagined it ever would. Then another path appears beside yours. Someone begins walking next to you. There is no need to pretend. No need to hide your scars. No need to explain every chapter of your past. Because somehow they understand. Not perfectly. Not magically. But sincerely. The conversations become easier. The silence becomes comfortable. The laughter becomes genuine. The future no longer feels like a distant dream. It begins to feel like home. In that moment, every tear from earlier chapters becomes part of a testimony rather than a burden. Every unanswered prayer becomes part of the preparation. Every delay becomes another thread woven into a story more beautiful than you could have imagined while living through it. And then your heart quietly whispers something unexpected. It was worth waiting. Not because the waiting was easy, but because the destination carried a peace that could never have been manufactured by rushing the journey. As this fictional message comes to its close, remember one simple truth. Hope is never wasted when it teaches you to love more deeply, trust more patiently, and walk more faithfully into tomorrow. Perhaps the exact day remains unknown. Perhaps the calendar still keeps its secret. But the story leaves you with this lasting picture. The author of every meaningful journey never forgets where each chapter belongs. When the page turns at the right moment, what once felt like a lifetime of waiting can become the very reason your future shines so brightly. And somewhere beyond today's horizon, another chapter is already waiting to be written. It begins not with fear, but with hope.